All right, this is not the Monday conversation we thought we would be having. But that is okay. Because I'm going to say this, and maybe this is an internal optimism side of me. I think that the offseason in college football has become just as enjoyable, just as intriguing as the actual season itself.
Why? Because of the transfer?
Because of just the overall chaos.
Enjoyable is
interesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting word because it depends on where you are.
That's right.
It depends on if you're getting the guy or if you're losing the guy. That could make it either good or bad. So
I am of the, and I'll start our conversation off by saying I think that this offseason, by the end, is going to have a very similar vibe to the Will Howard, Caleb Downs, Quinshon Judkins offseason. I do. I understand Buckeye Nation right now. They're freaking out.
It's a panic.
It's a panic, and that's okay. Because the one thing that we've seen throughout all of this is that Ohio State, they are not going to throw money at kids right out of the gate. They're not going to say, you want $5 million? Here's $5 million. They're going to sell you on their program. They have said, if you're coming here for money, you're coming to the wrong spot.
Okay.
So I think Ohio State is going to be on the back end of this portal game with a lot of big-name guys. With that said, so I'm in the, and we'll dissect why I'm in a comfort zone. Are you in a panic zone?
Okay, so the way I look at it is this, all right? So to me, it's one of two things that's going on over there at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. One, the players are not buying what OSU is selling right now. That's one. Or OSU is telling guys, you're not going to play here, get in the portal, we need that spot. Because for the past couple of years, it's not like the transfer portal is new. Yes, there's new rules. Yes, there's only one transfer portal. But Ohio State has always done a really good job of retaining those guys. We never really lost the key guys or the young key guys that you could be dependent on moving forward. And this is the first time that we are seeing that. And it's odd to me because it's like when you see an Aaron Scott or you see a Mylan Graham, who you know they really wanted those guys and they really wanted those guys to be a part of the future, get into the portal. It frightens me. And I get it with those two in particular because it's not like, Aaron Scott was a guy coming into the season, he was probably looked at as one of the backup corners, and Devin Sanchez came in and kind of took that away from him, so he's probably like, well, I'm going to just go because Devin Sanchez has passed me by. Mylan Graham is the guy that we saw him rotating with Brandon Ennis earlier in the season. We get to the Rutgers game where nobody's playing, and yet we don't see him until the second half. Makes me believe that he's been passed by. So if that's the case, all right, maybe that people think that they're just not good enough, but how are we replacing that talent? That is the part that's scary to me.
Okay, so that's interesting. You've perfectly set me up here. So my thought process.
That was my job, you know.
That was great. A little layup and I'll dunk it. My thought process, Mylan Graham, great receiver. I'm a big fan of Mylan Graham, but I don't know that Mylan Graham had a path forward here that Mylan Graham deserved. Because I have no doubt in my mind that when Chris Henry Jr. steps on campus on day one, he is a starter. There's no world where he's not a starter. I think they saw the fruit of that benefit with Jeremiah Smith.
How do you know that, Adam?
What do you mean?
Why is he automatically a starter?
Because he's a generational talent.
Oh?
Yeah.
What if it doesn't translate?
Well, it will.
What if it doesn't?
Well, then that's college football. Welcome to the party.
So what? Okay. All right. So now we're rolling the dice here.
Yes. See, you have to roll the dice to win big.
See, the one thing. This is what's becoming a problem. We have been spoiled as a fan base, and Adam has just perfectly proven my point.
Here we go.
We think that these kids are going to come in and beat Jeremiah Smith off the rip.
That's not what I said.
That is not the case. Yes, it is, because he has the same measurables. He's bigger. He's faster, strong. All of those things. And you've seen what Jeremiah Smith was as a true freshman, and you think Chris Henry probably is going to be the same thing because he was highly recruited. It was people throwing money at him, and they just had to have him. What if it doesn't work? So if it doesn't work out,
I think
where do we go? Because now we don't have backups.
First of all, you still have Quincy Porter.
We do have Quincy Porter.
I think he is a star in the making.
Okay.
They have looked at
What happens if he gets nicked and banged up?
What happens if they all don't work out, Tyvis? Then you're Old Dominion. You know, then you pack your bags and you ask what hotel it is at the bottom of the Big Ten.
When we won a national championship,
yeah,
it's a lot of backups that played, didn't it?
That's true.
A lot of rotational guys.
No, listen,
huh? It's about the depth. When you're playing 16 and 17 games in the season, you get tested on the depth of your team. They're very seldomly does everybody just stay healthy for the entire year. So I hear what you're saying, but you better make sure you got some pieces behind it. That's all I'm saying.
I just think if you look at these individual paths of these guys that entered the transfer portal, I've yet to see one guy that entered the transfer portal where alarm bells went off.
Okay.
I mean, like Brandon Inniss is going to be on the field here next year. He's going to be.
Should he be?
He should. Brandon Inniss had about 4 different routes in that Miami game that could have turned the game. Julian Sain just didn't find him. Mm-hmm. He is.
How would you judge his season?
I would say that Brandon Inniss did not live up to the opportunity he had.
Okay.
And I would say that was one of the bigger challenges for Ohio State. I think they would agree with you on that. Mm-hmm. Because this is the first.
So why is it set in stone that he's the starter?
Because Brandon Inniss brings a lot of intangibles around.
Intangibles?
Yes. He's a leader of. He got me choked up.
Oh!
He's a leader
I'm just asking questions.
No, he's a leader of this team.
Oh, okay.
And
So does a leader of the team make? If I'm a leader of the team, but I'm not making plays, that's.
I think Brandon
what good
Inniss,
does that do us?
I think Brandon Inniss.
At the end of the day, it's about players that make plays.
I think that Brandon Inniss is a very good wide receiver.
I agree.
That he underperformed this year, and I think he would admit that to you.
Mm-hmm.
This was the first season that Ohio State really didn't have a 1-2-3 wide receiver punch, and that hurt them in a lot of ways. I think that also includes the fact that they tried to play a lot of tight ends at a lot of the time.
They did?
And that,
why? You know why they did that?
Yeah, because they didn't have a wide receiver 3. Is that what you're going to say?
No, I wasn't going to say that.
All right, what are you going to say?
Oh, yeah, no. Sometimes when your offensive line
That's right.
isn't strong, you gotta do things to help those guys out, and a lot of that times that comes with help from a tight end.
That's right. Well, it was funny because you know what I said in the Miami game when the offensive line was getting beat?
What?
The only thing you can do here is put more tight ends on the field, and that's going to make everybody mad. With that, I do think that Brandon Inniss has a spot on this roster, but I think it's more.
Oh no, he's the starting slot next year.
Exactly.
I just asked you, should he be? That's all. Given his production in college so far from this season, why is it that he's guaranteed a spot?
It's not. Nobody's guaranteed a spot in Ohio State.
Oh yes, it is. Number 4 is.
Well, yes, because
that's my point.
It's
that's
not
exactly
guaranteed.
my point.
I think that Brandon Inniss has an offseason where he has to prove a lot of things. But I think when you look at the grand scheme of the wide receiver room, right now, it pretty well sets up for what you're looking at. It's Jeremiah, Chris Henry, and I think you play Chris Henry not because you think he's Jeremiah Smith, because you saw what 3 years of Jeremiah Smith can get you. 3 years of putting a freshman wide receiver on the field can turn him into something that is truly remarkable by year 3. I mean, we haven't even comprehended the fact that we still get a whole other season of Jeremiah. So even if Chris Henry isn't Jeremiah Smith, which you can't put that expectation on people, getting him out there young and getting him out there and giving him his opportunity, I think will be massive for this offense. Go ahead.
So this is why you put Chris Henry Jr. on the field as a freshman, because if you don't put Chris Henry Jr. on the field as a freshman, he will hit the portal in the spring. That's 100% going to happen whenever the Buckeye season concludes, because that's just the day and age that we're living in. You have to tailor to these freshmen. You have to make them believe that they have a future here, because if you don't, it's only one transfer portal. They're hitting it very hard. So therefore, that is why Chris Henry Jr. is going to play. However, he is a really good talent. He should play, given the facts that how much you probably spent and how much effort it took to get him here. He definitely should see the field. However, if Quincy Porter is a better player, I'd start Quincy Porter, but that's just me.
I feel like I'm over here fighting off pitches left and right with you. You're fired up today.
I'm keeping it real.
That's what it should be.
I'm keeping it real. The thing that I don't understand is over in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center, you talk to Ryan Day and he talks to these recruits. He says the one thing about here is you're going to compete. Nothing's going to be given to you. You're going to compete every day. And some of those guys that you're going against are really good. But you know what? That's what you want. You want the competition. However, it's just funny to me that a lot of the competition is hitting the portal. Just saying.
Well, that's because guys like Bryce West and guys like Aaron Scott, They are starting cornerbacks for good teams in the country. But if they're not ready, if they don't have a spot here, they want to go somewhere else where they can.
So what is it that you've seen out of Devin Sanchez? Jermaine Matthews, if he he stays, he will be a starting guy. Therefore, there's 2 open spots. What is it that about Devin Sanchez that you've seen this season that says, you know what, 100% that guy's going to be a starting corner? Because I have watched teams go right at number 6. Let's hear it.
Okay. Devin Sanchez has a lot to grow from. But again,
so does Aaron Scott, and so does Bryce West.
I am not in practice every day.
Me either.
So I can't. Man, I look pale. You got me fighting off.
Because you're saying the coach's speech here, and I'm just telling you the real. So I just want to hear what you got to say.
And I don't mean to be saying that.
And I'm not. It's not me throwing shade at O State. This is at the players as well. Because if I'm Aaron Scott and Bryce West, and I know that spot should be open, I'm a competitor. I know that if I stay here and become the starting corner here, chances are that it helps my draft stock and all of those things. So, I probably would stay and compete, but, everybody got their own thing.
All right. I'd like to say this. Here we go. I am not saying coach speak. I'm not defending anyone. I am just a social media user. I'm on the Twitter a lot, and I like to watch the chaos that ensues.
You know what's telling? Since you're on the Twitter a lot, this is where my issue comes with the whole wide receiver thing.
Yeah.
When Mylan Graham hit the Twitter, right, we've seen a bunch of guys transfer. It's only been one guy that received a response from anybody. And Mylan Graham got the response of Carnell Tate on Twitter and Jeremiah Smith.
And Brandon Ennis.
So, therefore,
I think Mylan Graham is the first real shocker of this whole thing. I think it's probably the first player in Ohio State's.
So my question is, why? Why did he do that?
Because I think Mylan Graham looks at what's over his shoulder. And I think Mylan Graham looks at Quincy Porter. I think he knows Jeremiah is coming back. I think he knows Brandon Ennis is going to be here. I think he knows that there is a wide receiver room where he doesn't, not that he doesn't want to compete. Of course he wants to compete. He wants to be the best player. But there is a path. Also, mind you, Ohio State's shopping for wide receivers in the portal, too. We've seen a lot of reports of that. So I think that Mylan Graham feels he is a wide receiver 1 on a team. And I think he came into Ohio State with that expectation. And he wants to go somewhere where he is considered a wide receiver 1, where he gets wide receiver 1 reps, where he gets wide receiver 1 catches.
I think what you're saying may be true if it wasn't Ohio State. If we have not seen for the past 2 years.
Also, they lost the wide receiver
Two
coach.
wide receivers that, well, obviously one is not in stone yet, but we've watched 2 remarkable wide receivers in Emeka Egbuka and Carnell Tate, all about to go first round, and they were not considered wide receiver 1.
I will say, this segment was supposed to be one, and maybe we can recap once. We were supposed to get into offensive coordinators. We haven't even, this is remarkable. This has been a great debate.
Yeah.
Real quick, I do want to ask you about the offensive coordinators. Because one name that I have circled.
Brian Daboll.
Yes, that's, okay, so we're on
That's where everybody is.
Yeah, I think that is there a world where they go out and get a guy like Brian Daboll, and we haven't seen a rework of the Ohio State offense since Ryan Day got here. Mm-hmm. It has looked pretty much identical, other than toying with it depending on the players, since he took over. Do you think there's a world where Brian Daboll comes in here and runs his own offense in that regard?
Be interesting to see that happen. I think that could be good. However, the fact of the matter is this. The truth of the whole scenario is this. Does Brian Daboll want to coach in college? That's because even if Brian Daboll got fired as a head coach, whoever gets hired as a head coach, because it's like 5 or 6 openings, I think, last I checked, 6 openings since the Cardinals just fired their coach. So with that being said, who's to say that nobody would bring him in as an offensive coordinator in the NFL?
But maybe you convince Daboll to come. Nick Saban did it with a lot of NFL guys. I look at the one that really jumps out to me is the Bill O'Brien hire from Ryan Day. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we know about Chip Kelly, but Bill O'Brien.
And Bill O'Brien was here for a cup of tea.
A cup of tea.
I don't even think he got to practice.
That hire kind of came out of nowhere in the regards that Ryan didn't really have a close-knit relationship with Bill O'Brien. They had crossed paths a couple times. But he brought in a guy who he trusted to pretty much be the Matt Patricia of offense.
Where was Bill O'Brien at before coming here.
Oh, goodness. Bill O'Brien's been all over the map.
I know.
I'm
trying to figure out where was he? Was he in college? Was he?
No, he was in the NFL.
He was in the NFL?
He was in the NFL, if I remember. He came from the NFL. Was he with?
I don't remember.
I'm looking at all the B-roll in my head, and I see 85 different teams because he was everywhere across the NFL. But so I do think if you bring a guy like Brian Daboll in, if you're Ryan Day, you have to say, here's the keys.
Well, if it's an offensive-minded guy who's had success in the NFL, you 100% let him run his offense. Now, you were a head coach. You're going to have input. You're going to teach him, some of the things that you know. But for the most part, if you want a guy to succeed, you don't never go get a guy who has their own offense and then try to install your offense into him. Because then you might as well just call the plays yourself.
Yeah.
There's no point in you having that guy. So to me, if he's going to go outside and go get a former NFL guy, which everybody believes is the perfect thing for him, a lot of people are not a fan of him promoting a guy from within. Everybody wants him to go get an old NFL guy because of the success you had with Chip Kelly. My only thing is, if you do that, make sure that guy knows how to fix the run game. The one thing that made Chip Kelly special over anybody else is that he had that run game going. Granted, he had 2 second-round picks at running back, so it made it a lot easier. But they have to find a way to make that run game special and effective in these games, because I will continue to say the difference between any Ryan Day's team that while he's been here and the team that won it all was the fact that they was able to run the ball and beat you just solely running the football.
I will say, sidebar here, and this is we didn't go back to the Miami game, but if you go back and watch the Miami game, maybe in a couple years when it's digested.
It's going to be like the Cotton Bowl against Missouri. Yeah, it never happened.
But the rush stats in college football are screwed up because you get sacks from the quarterback.
Yeah, we got negative 42 yards from Julian.
Yes, and so that screws up a lot of things. Mm-hmm. But if you go watch, they were moving the ball. Especially
in the second half.
That's what I was just going to say. Mm-hmm. In the second half, they were moving the ball.
They made a switch at right guard and left tackle.
It worked. And so the offensive line, Tyvis, we've got a lot to digest. And I've got to go, goodness gracious, I've never seen you so fiery.
I'm not fiery.
No, you were like a statue there.
How about fiery?
You were just
I just was at,
boom.
I want to keep it real. I think I owe it to the fans to be honest. That's one of my New Year's resolutions. It's just, I got to be unfiltered sometimes. A lot of the times I'm by the book, so I need to be unfiltered sometimes.
I guess my whole thing, and you said it was coach speak, I'm just not worried. I think there are a lot of people right now that are, this is a 5, the alarms are sounding.
Yeah, and you lost in a pretty not so good. Like if this was one of those situations where they lost that game and Miami just won by 3 points or something like that, it'd be different. But to physically be beat up
yes,
like that, me.
But I think
it's just.
I think that they lost
2 games in a row, just physically dominated it. That just.
But I think that's almost better. Hold on. Would you have rather them go to the Fiesta Bowl and lose to, I don't know, we'll say Ole Miss? They go to the Fiesta Bowl and they lose to Ole Miss. And then everybody says, man, this was a great team. We just couldn't get the win. Instead, this feels like there is everybody looking at the program. It's a program check. That's what you need after a loss like that, is somebody to say, how did you get out-toughed by Indiana and Miami?
It's the only reason I have a problem with it is because it always comes back to the same thing, and I'm sick of hearing it. Like it's always toughness. It comes back to toughness. Everybody say if you go look at any of Ohio State's losses, it always comes down to them not being tough, and it really bothers me as an alumni to hear my alma mater being considered soft, because I know that's not what we are. So I'm sick of hearing it. I want them to fix it. If you don't do anything, please fix that part. We should never turn on the tape or at any moment of a game and say, you know what, they are physically getting dominated. That just doesn't happen here. We have always been the team that takes the fight to everybody. We control the pace of the game. They got to match what we doing. When did it flip? That's where my frustration comes with watching that game. In the first half, I will say.
I think you make a lot of great points.
Thank you. Unfiltered Tyvis.
All right. I do think that will allow them to reassess a lot of things. I think you're going to see them get some big-name guys in the portal.
We'll see.
We will see.
We'll see.
And we'll be talking about it. He is Tyvis Powell, unfiltered in 2026. I'm Adam King. Keep it on 10 TV, 10 TV Plus, and 97.1 The Fan for all your Buckeye coverage.